If you have a section of lawn that you need to restore because it's kind of patchy, you've had some problems with it and some grass has died out, or maybe you've got an entire new section of lawn you want to start, well, this is the video you need to watch. I'm going to go through the simple steps to get a lawn started at just the right time of the year. Stick around and we'll get that done. My name is Fred, and I've done a lot of lawn work over the years on this property. A lot of sections that I got grass restarted or started an entire section of lawn, and I've also done it at rental properties I've owned and previous homes. A lot of experience, and these are the steps that I always follow to make sure it turns out right. One of the things you're going to need probably to fill in holes and level out an area is a load of black dirt. I'm able to go get that with my truck like I did this morning. I got about a half a yard of dirt because I've got some other areas to fill. And I've got an area that I've expanded the lawn because who doesn't need more lawn to mow? I've got an area that I used to have to brush hog, and I decided I'm just going to turn it into lawn. And one of those spots was so full of quack grass that I had to kill it out. And now I'm going to till it up and I'm going to get it ready for planting. Well, let's get going on the steps right now. First of all, as the old adage goes, timing is everything. This is the 2nd of September, and I do all of my grass seeding in the fall. Why do I do it in the fall? Because you start to get fall rains, you get warmer days, cooler nights, you get a good sprout, and you get the good growth of the new grass, and you don't get the weed growth anymore. People say, well, why don't you plant in the spring? Well, in the spring, your grass gets started, but then so do the weeds, and then the dry weather comes, and the weeds and the grass are fighting. You can't spray the new grass for the weeds because it'll damage the grass. You just open yourself up for a host of trouble. So unless you absolutely have to, avoid planting a large area in the spring and do it in the fall. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Prime season. First week of September, it'll get a good month to get started and get growing before we have a good heavy leaf fall. That's the first thing you need. Second thing you need are some tools. You only need like a good garden rake to do some leveling. You need a shovel to move that dirt around. Probably should wear a good pair of gloves. A tiller is usually helpful, especially if you're starting grass in a brand new area where you've had to kill some things out and you need to rough it up. I happen to have my own tiller. This tiller I've had for 25 years. It's a great big 8 horsepower rear tine tiller. It comes from Troy-Bilt. I don't even know if you can buy these anymore, but if you don't have a tiller, they're always available for rent somewhere, or maybe your neighbor can lend you a tiller. You're going to need some grass seed because this area has sun morning and afternoon. I'm just going with a sunny lawn grass seed. If I'm in a shadier area, I will use a shady lawn or sun to shade seed. And then you need a good starter fertilizer. I just use a fall fertilizer. This happens to be a weed and feed. You don't need the weed part of it, but it's a little bit lower nitrogen and higher in the other things that you need to get the roots developed and the grass growing. And then just a good spreader to spread that fertilizer a little bit and to spread that grass seed out. Because this is a very, very rough patch of ground. It was, as I said, an area that I used to have to hit with a brush hog. Comes up out of the hill down below. There are some holes in here, some depressions. The moles have been working this very hard. So I'm going to take my shovel, I'm going to back up here a little bit with the truck, and I'm going to fill in these low areas. I want to do that before I till because sometimes when you till, it kind of masks where the holes are. So I want to get that taken care of first. I'm going to start out with a little safety tip when you're using a rake like this. If you lay it down, put the tines down. For obvious reasons, you don't want the tines up and then accidentally step on that rake, or even if you lean it against something, lean it so that the tines are pointed down, because if you don't and you walk by, you can swing the rake into yourself. What I'm going to fill in first, the most serious hole, is a trench. 30 years ago when I moved in out here, and I covered this in a different video, I had to trench everything and lay in some drainage lines from the house to pick up the eaves troughs and run it down here into the woods. In the yard itself, as things would settle, I would see that and I would fill it in over the years. But with this all growing up with tall grass and weeds, I didn't see it. And there was some settling down in here. I dug a little spot just to make sure there was nothing damaged on the drain pipe, and it's all intact. It just has settled. So the first thing I'm going to fill is that trench. Now for me, it's handy to go get a half a yard of dirt. I've got a 3/4 ton truck, and they just scoop it up in the yard, dump it in the back, and I bring it home. Now if you don't have a truck big enough to do that, you can buy dirt in bags, but that would take a lot of dirt and a lot of bags, and if you don't have a truck, it's still hard to carry. So you might want to just consider renting a low flat trailer, putting something on the base of that trailer, and maybe getting a 1/4 yard of dirt or something that's going to fill what you need to get your work done. But for me, this is real handy. 4-wheel drive, I can drive it right back out of here. So let's get this hole filled. I got the holes filled, a couple of minor holes here and there, and then the biggest share of the dirt went into that trench to bring that up. I'm going to till this now to get the top of the soil broken up. I'm going to set the tiller at a shallow depth here. I can go very deep, I can go very shallow. I put it on the 2nd notch. Reason being, I'm just trying to break the surface here. Everything's been killed out. There'll be some root debris in there, and if it's a little bit bigger, I can rake that out. But for the most part, just get this loosened up, because you're going to put the grass seed and the fertilizer on, and you only want to get the grass seed worked in about a 1/4 inch into the soil. And the deeper you make this, the harder it is to do that. In a garden, you may go a little bit deeper to break the soil up, but in this case, just going across the surface. I got a half a yard of dirt. I know for sure I've used a 1/4 yard of dirt to do the fill in, and I've got a few more holes to fill further up in the lawn that I'm not tilling, but I've got rabbit den hole up there, and I got a few other minor holes from animals digging in the yard, and I'll probably use most of that up. Anything I've got left, I'll put on my reserve pile up by the woods. I always keep a little extra black dirt up there along with some gravel. Let's go ahead and get this tilled up and ready for some grass seed. It's all tilled. I made 2 passes. I made the first pass in slow speed just to make sure I had everything broken up. I had a little stretch here where I still had some sod I had to break up, and I found out the ground was just hard enough. I had to go 3 notches to get it broken up. Second pass I did at high speed with just 2 notches set on the depth and just fluffed the soil. So you can see now I have some really nice, loose, loamy soil. I need to rake out some of the big clumps of roots and things and get those down into the tall grass next to the woods. So I don't want to deal with that being in the yard. But some of the finer stuff that's down inside the dirt, that's fine. I'm going to leave it there because that's just going to help feed the soil. My supervisor is headed on her way down here to check everything out. But I think she got distracted. On the subject of timing is everything, another reason I'm trying to get this done today is the forecast calls for an 80% chance of rain tomorrow. I want to get this done so it gets rained in really well, get some moisture. We're supposed to have a couple cool, dry days and then some more rain after that. That'll be just perfect to get this started, and then a little bit of a warm-up. Tilling goes pretty fast. Now is the final prep, making sure everything's cleaned up. For that, I very lightly, keeping very little pressure on the ground. If I see some root clumps, things, because this quack grass has a lot of roots, and the crabgrass in particular has a big root bundle on it. Once in a while you grab a hold of them, you very lightly pull those off to the side. And then so that I don't lose a lot of dirt, those I rake back and forth on the lawn after they dry a little bit. and that dirt will fall into the grass where it'll just keep the lawn filled. Then I take the back of the rake after I get the clumps out, and that's how I get the final leveling. I look at shadows, I see where I have depressions, and I use the back of the rake. And the reason I do that, it doesn't dig in, and I can smooth and level the dirt. I'm trying to accomplish two things here. Get rid of this weedy, clumpy mess full of quack grass and weeds that keep popping up, hawkweed, different things, and get a good healthy lawn here, good healthy lawn grass, and get the bumps out so I don't feel like I'm riding inside a bouncy house whenever I mow the lawn back here. There I found another quack grass root. Get that pulled out. Even though it's dead, you like to get those quack grass roots out. This one looks like it's still alive, even though I'd killed out the quack grass. If you're not familiar with quack grass, it has a very long root system, interconnected, and just because you dig out a little clump of quack grass doesn't mean you've gotten rid of it. It's going to keep coming up till you get that root out of there, or you get it killed out. Inspector's back, found some shade. With the soil smoothed out, the next step is to put some fertilizer down. I've got a medium-sized hand spreader here, just a generic one, set to about halfway for the pellets. I'm just going to walk around and lightly fertilize this. I don't want to get a whole lot of fertilizer down, just enough to feed it to get it started. You can see where you've already gotten fertilizer and keep a pretty good eye on it. It's a lot easier than when you try to do it with a big 125-pound pull-behind spreader on the mower. Next, we put the grass seed down. I filled up the hopper here with grass seed, and I cut the feed down very low. I'm going to make 2 passes very lightly. I'm going to go the long way, and then I'm going to double back, crisscross the short way. That gives you a better, more even coverage than trying to get it all on with one pass going one direction. With the seed and fertilizer applied, I'm going to lightly, and I mean lightly, go back and forth with the back of the rake and get that seed covered. It just has to barely be beneath the surface of the dirt. When I'm doing a big section of lawn, sometimes I will take the lawn roller and roll this to compact the top, to make it sure it's sealed, stuff doesn't get picked out of here or rained out. I'm not going to bother with that today. That's a lot of work and a lot of water to fill that thing up. Then the other thing is to get some straw on here. Once I get this leveled out, I'm going to spread some straw on here. I've noticed that you can buy some very expensive bundles of straw at the home center, or if you live out in the country like me, you can go see your neighbor and get a couple of bales of straw. After I get the straw down, I would soak this all in really well. I don't see any point in doing that tonight since we're going to get some rain and potentially heavy rain tomorrow. I'm just going to start out with that rain and see where the rain pattern ends up over the next few days and see if I need to water. Now, one thing for sure, once you get the seed down and it gets wet, you have to keep it wet. So if it looks like you're going to have a couple of dry days, you need to be prepared to get a hose out here with a sprinkler and keep this watered, or you're going to lose the seed. I'm going to move the truck slowly along this stretch here and fill in some of the holes that I talked about earlier. The grass in this section is in pretty good shape. I killed out the crabgrass that was here, and the grass that's in this section is lawn grass, and it's in pretty good shape. With a little bit of care and fertilization, it should all come back. It looked pretty good this summer. I just have to get rid of these humps and bumps. A note I want to make, if you live out in the country and you have a septic system, be sure you don't drive your truck or your tractor or anything over that drain field. We knew some people many, many years ago, and they were going to do some landscaping in their yard. They didn't think about that, drove back and forth on the drain field, and completely ruined it. Had to put in a brand new drain field, and that's a very expensive proposition. So keep your vehicles off your drain field. After leveling up that area, filling in the low spots, filling in a number of holes here in the good section of lawn, that's what's left of a half yard of dirt. That is a wrap. A couple of hours of work, a few tools and some seed and some fertilizer, and we have an area all leveled up, seeded, and ready to start growing once we get some rain. Next spring and summer, when I want to mow this, it's going to be a lot nicer to mow, and it's going to look a lot nicer from the house. I wasn't able to get the straw down on the whole thing. I ran out of straw. I'll have to run to the neighbors next couple of days and get a couple more bales and finish putting straw on once we get past the rain. If you found today's video useful and got something out of it, I ask that you click like and consider subscribing to this channel. I'm going to be doing all of my DIY stuff on here, and there are going to be a lot more things coming up. By subscribing, you'll be notified when those things come out. Until next time, enjoy your projects. Thanks for watching and take care.